I so highly encourage every parent to have some sort of parental control app on their kids' devices at home.
As parents, right, we care about our kids' safety,
Yeah.
and you guys are speaking with educators, IT leaders,
Mhm.
administrators. How do you adapt that messaging for those stakeholders?
Yeah, all of those different people in the education space have wildly different pain points. New things are impacting that teaching time that never were in the past. If we went to an IT director with a classroom problem, they'd be like, not me, not it. We're sending direct mail, like we're bringing back print mail and sending retro flavored campaigns. We're, of course, doing everything we can to protect those students through their school issued devices and even with parent applications on their devices at home. But there's more that needs to happen globally to protect these kids online.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Taking Flight podcast. This is a show that we created at Crowe PR, timed with our decade in business. And it's a show where we sit down with visionary leaders to discuss their journeys, their companies, and those moments in their life and their career where they really took flight. And joining us today is Janelle Higdon, who is a director at Linewize, and we're going to hear all about that company and her journey. So welcome, Janelle. Excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Happy to chat with you guys.
Awesome. Well, we like to start with sort of the background, right? Tell us a little bit about your career and what brought you to Linewise.
Yeah, for sure. So I started off my career in marketing and communications in the world of education. So both elementary schools and higher education as well. And I started really in the content side of things. My degree was in writing, and I was like, oh, writing for marketing is so fun. And so kind of started in that little pocket. And as I did more and more, I just got really interested with digital marketing and eventually kind of found the perfect blend, which I think the world of demand generation within marketing really is that blend of content and digital and just how all those strategies come together. And when I kind of found that little pocket, I shifted over to the world of software as a service and spent some time there. But I missed the really meaningful work. You know, you're selling software, and it's not that it's never meaningful, but sometimes it just feels a little like here's another tool that does another thing. And when I came across Linewise, I was just struck by this beautiful blend of my background in education and in tech. So now I'm in EdTech working for Linewise, which has an amazing meaning and mission to it. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, there's something so powerful around partnering and working with brands, companies that make a huge impact, and Linewise does just that. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Linewise and the mission, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Linewise is a tech company, but specifically for the education space for K-12. So our mission in a nutshell is to protect students when they're online. So whether they're using their Chromebook at school or maybe at home, all they're facing all sorts of new challenges and dangers really online. So our mission at its heart is to protect those students when they're online from anything they may encounter, or even to protect them from something they're already experiencing or a pain in their life that they might be documenting online, so that we can help those students and keep them safe.
It is such important work in today's digital first world. And I mean, I have kids, I understand even just whether it's, laptops, iPads, phone, there's just to your point, a plethora of information. And I remember when we started working with you guys, we were talking about like, imagine the corner of the internet and there's just so much stuff there and your child sometimes sits there and there's stuff coming at them that you
Yeah.
can't control, so you guys really help protect that through education. I know we mentioned obviously as parents, right, we care about our kids safety
Yeah.
and all of that, and you guys are speaking with educators, IT leaders,
Mhm.
administrators. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that messaging, how do you adopt or adapt that messaging for those stakeholders?
Yeah, it's very interesting because all of those different people in the education space have wildly different pain points and different perspectives. So if you're thinking about a teacher, for example, we've all had teachers in our day. They're laser focused on the classroom experience and being able to have that teaching time with their students. Well, new things are impacting that teaching time that never were in the past. So now we've got every student has their own device and they're on that device in the classroom. And think of all the myriad of ways that that can impact that student's learning, whether they're finding something they shouldn't online or whether they're maybe bullying a student in a document, a shared document or something like that. There's new challenges and pain points there for that teacher in the classroom. That's very different than what an IT director might be looking at. Certainly, they support those teachers and their pain points, but an IT director is drowning in support tickets and they're focused on efficiency and will my network go down and how do I buy the most affordable yet most effective filter and so they're very, very pragmatic and practical. And when we look at these personas, we're trying to dig down to what is the underlying pain point, what is the discomfort that they feel in their day, and how can we share about our products with them in a way that helps address that pain point. Because if we went to an IT director with a classroom problem, they'd be like, "Not me, not it." So that is how we look at that.
That's so important. And I remember early on in my career, I was in telecom for a little while, and I remember one of my leaders at the time said that 70% of customer loyalty comes from us solving a problem for our customer, right? So whatever that pain point is, and if we can show that, and I love the fact that you guys are so clear on your customers and what is really keeping them up at night and what is driving their work forward. So that's fantastic. And so talk a little bit about the demand generation in the EdTech space. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have this principle that I like to call the magic moment. Feel free to cue the song there. This magic moment. So this came from actually my years in higher education marketing. So at that point, we were marketing to high school students, and as you can remember, you get just tons of mail from all of the different universities that you possibly could ever go to. And you talk to a counselor on the phone, you're looking at their emails, their website, but at some point you have to do a campus visit. And we found that whenever these high school students came to the campus of our university, for them, that was the magic moment. It was the pivotal point in their marketing journey for selecting, where they would be a customer, where they would be a student for college. And it was when they came to campus that they had that feel, oh, this is where I'll live on campus. Oh, this is what a class is like. These are my professors. That's the lunchroom. And for them, it was just a really defining point in the journey. Now, in the EdTech space, obviously we're not marketing to high school students, but our primary persona of the IT director, sometimes they can be kind of resistant almost to what we would say are traditional forms of marketing. But once they hop on a conversation with someone on our team, whether it's our sales team, our customer success team, that for them is the magic moment. That's where all of the walls come down and they're not resistant anymore. We find they're actually super open about, oh my goodness, my filter, it doesn't do this. And I really hate that. There's no way that your filter does that thing I need it to do. And they're very open about presenting those pain points and problems that they're encountering with their current safety solution or their absence of a student safety solution. So that's the magic moment that we are working toward. We're trying to expedite their journey to having a real conversation with someone on the Linewize team. And that means that we're moving them through quickly with account-based marketing campaigns that will get them straight through to book a meeting, or doing a lot at trade shows where we have our staff at the booth to have a face-to-face conversation with them and hear about what's really going on in their world, in their district.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And such a cool concept of the magic moment. And you're right, it's that. That's a perfect way of framing it, and I'll probably have that song in my head for the rest of the day.
Yeah, me too.
And what are some of the tools that you're using? You mentioned, obviously, we've talked about PR and some other work. How are you, what are some of those tools that are shaping your work right now and really helping Linewise stand out in a crowded landscape and educate?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we think about the tools that are shaping the work that we do, of course, AI is all over right now. Everyone's talking about AI.
What?
And
What's anyway?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I know. No, no big deal. So that certainly is shaping what we do and trying to find new efficiencies in our content production, or even HubSpot we use for our CRM and marketing automation. They have just gobs of innovations with AI and how we can become more efficient over there. But I think if we're thinking of trends, honestly, there's another trend in the world of marketing right now that we've been leaning into. It has nothing to do with tools, but it has everything to do with campaigns and how we present ourselves in the space, and that's the retro trend. So it's a funny juxtaposition with AI, but we're seeing tons of retro in the world of marketing as a whole right now. So retro messaging, retro visuals, and we've been enjoying leaning into that a little bit, because this idea that the internet isn't what it used to be is is a fascinating one. Everyone who's an adult right now has some, glimpse of that understanding that the internet has evolved over their existence. So we're able to play that across all of our personas, and to lean into that trend in our marketing.
That's very cool. And is that a one way that you humanize the brand, and or what are some of the other ways that you're really able to bring some of that storytelling to life?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about knowing our persona as well, knowing their pain points, and that's part of humanizing the brand. But that translates ultimately into creativity, because an IT director is our primary persona. So let's take the IT director for a moment. They're, as I said, super duper busy, and they're very practical and pragmatic as they look at their day. So when they're neck deep in support tickets, they're probably not thinking like, I think I'd like to go peruse some boring marketing emails about filter. So we've been taking this idea of retro and creativity and forming that into really creative campaigns. So we've been leaning into account-based marketing, where we're sending direct mail, like we're bringing back print mail and sending retro flavored campaigns. We're doing a retro video game themed campaign right now, leaning into the heart of the persona, because we know that the IT director, we know what they do all day, but we know kind of who they are beyond the daytime, maybe who they were as a kid. So we're drawing through that retro, the video games, kind of the heart of who they are as a person, and bringing that into a creative moment, to help capture their attention and ultimately get to a conversation with them.
Super cool. And that makes it so much more fun too. So yeah, the humanization of the brand is so important. Obviously, we talk a lot about that in PR too, and just the messaging to really form those emotional connections, even in the B2B space. Okay, so I know you've been with Linewize for a bit, and you've had other careers in marketing, etc. Can you think of a moment that ties to the name of this show, where a company that you've worked at, whether it's Linewise or perhaps another example, when it really took flight?
Yeah.
Some example of that.
Absolutely. So for me, that moment has been at Linewise, where I've been able to take flight. I joined this team about 3.5 years ago, and I did start in a demand generation role and eventually grew to assistant director of the marketing team. And we had an opening, an opportunity for the director role. And it's one of those moments in my career where I knew in my gut, I was like, I am pretty sure I could do this job, the director role. And that moment where you're thinking, okay, I've grown these skills, I've worked with this team, I've even had stepped in an interim basis into that role for a little bit. But I needed to take a moment and look at my confidence level and say like, okay, what's holding you back? Why are you not going for it? And it came down to that belief, like that that gut feeling that you can do this job, like listen to that, like go for it. It's time to go for it. And I had always kind of put myself in like an assistant director kind of role in the past as well, where I was like, I make a really excellent right hand lady. Like, I
I'm
will
so good at this job.
I
Mhm.
was like, I will bring you data till the end of the day. I will inform your strategy. I will support. But I had yet to take that step into the director role, into that leading position. And I did so much evaluation of the role and sat down with my husband. We went through and thought about all of the different facets and angles and pros and cons. And I ended up putting together a pitch for why I should go for it and did and here we are. And it's just been an amazing season of growth. Maybe a little trial by fire, but that's great.
That's fine. Yeah.
And yeah, and
Mhm.
and I've learned about leading a team and an amazing team. We have an amazing team of marketers here at Linewise. I've had the joy of working with them and growing alongside them and being able to experiment and try things and push our brand. Um, it's not every ed tech company that's out there sending a retro video game campaign. That's very unique within the space right now. And to be able to experiment with that and say, like, okay, we're going to try something pretty far outside the box. And here's why, here's my rationale. Let's go for it, let's do it. And watching those things succeed and take off and generate revenue has been so satisfying for me. It's been a huge taking flight moment,
Mhm.
being in this role, and I'm super duper grateful to be doing it. So
Thank you for that story. It reminds me of a couple of things. One is, of course, what's that saying? Um, Fortune favors the bold, right?
mm-hmm.
And there is something to be said for being an outlier, doing things a little differently,
Hmm.
trying new things, and knowing that one of the two things may not work, but
Yeah.
maybe one of the 10 things will work, and
Hmm. Hmm.
it'll be really powerful. So that's very cool. And then the second thing is uh, when I go on, when I've done on a few podcasts recently, we talk so much about imposter syndrome
Hmm.
and having that
Yeah.
uh, disbelief almost at the beginning, like, oh, I don't know, am I good enough here? Have I proven myself? Have I earned this? Right? The
Hmm.
narrative that it sounds like you did some really great work and you found the tools in your toolbox that said,
Hmm.
okay, let me write a thesis on why this is a great opportunity for me
Hmm.
if and really give myself that clarity
Yeah.
because sometimes there's some noises that may be telling me otherwise. So, kudos to you for doing that because you're crushing it, and the company's really growing and doing well, doing really impactful things, growing in the impact that you guys are making. What do you see as an opportunity for ed tech marketing in the next few years? And also, what do you see for Linewise? What's next?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In the space of ed tech, I think that again, as AI grows, I think there's this, we're juxtaposing this desire for human connection and for real human feedback. So I see that in the world of ed tech where different ed tech companies might be increasing their production of AI driven content. I don't see that resonating deeply with our IT persona because they are so pragmatic and every so often a little bit skeptical. We've already seen growing IT communities on Reddit. There's like this amazing K-12 sysadmin community there where they talk about different products and their experiences, and it's a very human touch point where they're looking to know how are things really working. They want to talk to other districts. So I really see us leaning into the human side of the world of ed tech, and that and Reddit, YouTube videos, short form content there, as well as one of our pillars of our strategy is always trade shows and being able to be present and have conversations and hear about the real issues. So I see those continuing to be just instrumental for the world of ed tech and growth there. For Linewise, in the future, we are a global organization. We're part of Korea, Linewise of Korea. And so we have also our UK region, Australia, New Zealand, and growth across Europe as well. And part of the heart of our global organization, like I said earlier, is real change for students, real protection for children online. And with that in our future, I see growing advocacy in that space because we're, of course, doing everything we can to protect those students through school, through their school issued devices, and even with parent applications on their devices at home. But there's more that needs to happen globally to protect these kids online. We're seeing things like social media bans appear in Australia for certain age children and questions around how are they enforcing that. We're seeing cell phone bans in the US in different schools in different states. And there's this broader kind of awakening force of people who are very eager to keep kids safe online. And so Linewise is definitely in that conversation and present and doing what we can to help keep kids safe out there.
Yeah, so important. Couple of questions that came to mind as we were chatting through this. So, speaking of the Australia ban, what's your take on that? Whether it's what you mentioned, how do we execute it, and or is this something that should be rolled out to other countries, including the big country of US?
Yeah, such a good question. And I think where I come from on situations like this, or even we're seeing ChatGPT and introducing some controls for teens and things like that. Some of the efforts in that space when they're coming from a company, more so than when they're coming from government organizations, it feels like a cover your butt moment where that business is potentially putting out some sort of ban or age restriction or whatever it is on their platform in order to just protect themselves from the liability of having younger children on there. When those bans are coming from government entities, I think the question of enforcement is our real problem. I personally don't want my children on social media until they are way older than they are right now. But the question of how a government would enforce that, that's one that I don't have an answer to, and I don't think they have an answer to yet either. Um, and it's just a big old problem that I think nobody quite knows how to solve yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was really excited to see it there, and I actually tell my kids that all the time
Yeah.
because they're just under the 16 mark,
Hmm.
and it is challenging because of the
Yeah.
connections do come through those devices, right?
Hmm.
So my
Hmm.
second question as a follow-up to that is, we know Linewise works with the administrators in IT and all that, like as we said. Obviously, your end consumer, right, going
Hmm.
through those channels is the
Yeah.
safety, is the kids, the children
Hmm.
in school. So, um, do you have any, uh, whether it's new information or advice or tips or anything to give to the parents of these kids that they should know about or even think about when it comes to online safety? Again, no, that's
Yeah.
not the primary market, but that is
Mhm.
something that we're obviously wanting to trickle down to at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I am a parent, and I see the parents of my kids' friends at school, and I so highly encourage every parent to have some sort of parental control app on their kids' devices at home. If their kid has their own tablet or phone or laptop, whatever it is, make sure that there's some sort of parental control application on there. We, of course, use Custodio, Custodio being part of our global organization. But that ability for a parent to turn off the internet at bedtime or to see what their child is visiting online, restrict access to applications. It's absolutely essential because I can guarantee that the kids at school are talking about something new that they found online or something that someone else found online and that someone is going to go home and try it. Someone is
Yeah.
going to go home and try to find that whatever it is that's not age appropriate. And we if we don't have that visibility into it, it really limits our potential to have positive conversations with our kids about digital safety. And of course, if we find something on those applications, addressing it in that moment is essential. But the other thing I would really encourage parents to do is to have open conversations about the internet at random times. Talk about it in the car on the way home from school when it's not related to anything critical. Or talk about it at bedtime. Talk about ChatGPT, what it is, how we use it, how it can be used for great things, how it can be challenging. Having those conversations in a non-pressured time is super important too, just for building trust with those kids so that they understand my mom, my dad, my parent knows kind of what's happening in this world, and I'm not here alone. And if I have a question, I can bring it to them. And if I've run into something that I think I shouldn't have seen, I can tell them. And just to create that openness about that conversation at all times.
That is such great advice. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope a lot of parents get to hear that and are reminded of that, because it can also be forgotten pretty quickly in the busyness of life, right? So thank you
Mhm.
for reminding us. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your insights and story, and for being our partner. We just so appreciate and are honored to share the story of Linewize and all the impactful things that you guys are doing across the globe. So appreciate your time. And where can someone learn more about Linewize and or connect with you should they want to work with Linewize, et cetera?
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's been great chatting with you today. And we love working with Crowe PR. You can find Linewise online at linewise.com. I'm happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to chat with people about EdTech, student safety, any and all of the things. But I really appreciate this conversation today. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Well, Janelle, thank you again, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Make it a great day.